Hey, what's going on guys, Sensus here. And the other day Blizzard finally announced the next WoW expansion as Warlords of Draenor at BlizzCon. And in doing so, they also revealed the new level 100 talents for every class. So today I'm going to be going over what I believe is going to be the optimal rogue spec to play come the next expansion. And this is assuming that they don't change anything like, buff some current talents or get rid of current talents and add new ones, which they probably will. So just keep that in mind as you watch this. This is a very, very early assumption. So for the first tier, I think we're going to stick with Subterfuge, and this is because Subterfuge is amazing for peels, and you can get those really nice hard openers with it, which is what you need as a rogue. For the level 30 tree, I think we're going to stick with Combat Readiness, and of course if you're going up against a double caster, you're going to spec into Nerve Strike. But for the basic cookie cutter spec, Combat Readiness is the way to go. For the third tier, we're going to stick with Elusiveness. Unless, of course, they buff Cheat Death, or I don't even know what they're going to do with Leeching Poison. I don't see any use for it in PvP, to be honest. So yeah, Elusiveness is still going to be the way to go here. For the fourth tier, we're going to stick with Shadow Step. For the fifth tier, we're going to go with Prey on the Weak. Now, this is kind of subjective. You could either go with Prey on the Weak or Paralytic Poison. Okay, next up for the sixth tier, we're going to pick up Mark for Death. Now, it could be a little bit subjective here too between Mark for Death or Anticipation, and I'll go over why in a second here. Now, with Shuriken, you just don't get enough out of it for what you put into it, so that's why it's not in the mix. Now, before I go over why it's subjective between these two, I'm going to go over the three new talents. The first new talent is called Master the Basics. It's a passive ability, and what it does is when you critically strike with an auto attack, you gain an additional combo point on your target. The second new talent is called Shadow Reflection. It has a 20-yard range and a 2-minute cooldown, and what it does is it summons a shadow of yourself on the target that will watch you memorize your ability usage for the next 8 seconds. After this time, it will mimic the memorized abilities on its target over the next 8 seconds. And finally, the last new talent is called Death from Above. It costs 50 energy and has a 20-second cooldown, and this is my personal favorite new talent out of the three so far. Just judging from the description, it sounds awesome. And what it does is it's a finishing move that consumes combo points on the target to empower your weapons with shadow energy and performs a devastating 2-part attack. The first part kind of reminds me of Blade Storm. You roll around dealing shadow damage to all enemies within 8 yards. And the second part is you leap into the air and slice into your target on the way back down, dealing additional shadow damage. And on the bottom there you have how far it scales, you have your area damage and the damage you're going to do to that target. And I'm pretty sure these numbers aren't exact considering they haven't released how they're going to be scaling health and damage in the next expansion. From what I've read, they're going to be toning it down, which is a good thing in my books. Now, in my opinion, this is going to be the best rogue spec right here. And like I was saying before, it is subjective between these two talents, and I'm going to go into why right now. So if you spec into Anticipation and Master the Basics, you're not going to be losing out on any of those extra combo points that you would get out of Master the Basics, because if you were spec'd into Mark for Death instead of Anticipation in this case, you'd be losing out on a lot of those extra combo points that would generate from this talent. So that's why you'd want to pick up Anticipation if you were going to spec into Master the Basics, at least in my opinion. But overall, in my opinion, this is going to be the best salty rogue spec, at least with the way things are sitting right now. But I want to know what you guys think. Do you agree that this is going to be the optimal spec to use? Or do you have another idea in mind of another route we could go? Let me know in the comments, and as always, thanks for watching guys. I'll see you next time.